Hello, everyone, and good morning. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Still sick.
I just asked you if you were okay.
Let's try that again. Hello, everyone, and good morning. Welcome to our Big Brother Canada 6 live feed update for April 18th. I very much apologize for the gross coughing in your ears. Don't worry, there are no actual germs that can transmit through audio
That we know of.
as far as I know. Yeah. So I'm your host, Taran Armstrong, and with me today is Matt. How you doing, Matt?
I'm doing great, probably better than you with that cough. It's such a shame we don't have much to talk about this morning. It's going to be one of the shorter updates of the season.
Yes, Matt is lying to you. This is going to be a long one. Lots going on. We finally got some stuff happening in this house, and it's all thanks to our boy Johnny. So this will be an interesting update here. And of course, we are talking about the live feeds and everything that happened yesterday on Big Brother Canada 6. We got a good group with us here in the chat today on robhasawebsite.com. They were talking about the June Taran show episode earlier. They enjoyed it.
I did too. It was really good. I actually just finished it this morning. She is such an interesting person, and I really hope she takes you up on the offer and comes back for a part 2.
Absolutely, yeah. She's been so kind about it afterward as well. So very happy. Apparently, I linked to the round table in my tweet. Whoops.
Way to go.
Thank you, Kirsten, for letting me know that on Twitter. It's this look today, as with most days when I'm sick. Here's the real link. This is my tweeting process. You're getting it live.
We got the coughing process, the tweeting process. What else?
All right.
What else?
Okay, here we go. Let's talk about the live feeds and everything that went down yesterday. We came back. The feeds had been down for a long time. That's because there was some kind of party. There was some kind of cuddling interaction between Will and Maddie, but other than that, there wasn't a whole lot to report, at least after the fact. But I assume we'll get some party footage at some point during the week, interfering with all the decent strategy that went on yesterday.
Yeah, I'm glad that we didn't get like a whole lot of talking about it, because it's just frustrating to hear when the feeds come back on and they're talking about what a great time they had and all of this stuff from the party that we never had, we never see. So it's annoying to have to hear about. So I'm glad the rest of the day had nothing to do with it.
Yes, and that's really all there is. There's a party, and that's about it. So
that's our update.
Yeah. This is the story of, and man, there's a lot of running back and forth and stuff. So I am going to do my best to give you all of the information, but also streamline it in a way that makes sense so you understand the narrative of what happened yesterday.
You got to Robify it. So Rob can understand.
Well, like there's Big Brother US, which is like a streamlined kind of like simplistic version of what happens on the feeds, and they do a good job of telling a story. Then there's Big Brother Canada, which is like an alternative version to what happened on the feeds, which ignores almost everything. Then there's the live feed updates where you get everything that happened, but just like just put into hopefully nice little packages with maybe some rough edges, because I'm trying to give you every detail.
Yep.
So yes. So to start the day, Paris talking to the cameras. She does not want to keep Johnny in this house. And just to reset for today, Johnny has made an attempt, as we've talked about. He's trying to walk this tight line, this seesaw of he gets Allie and Liv to keep him, but that means Paris and Will are not going to. If he gets Paris and Will, then Allie and Liv are not going to. He's trying to walk this fine line of getting these two different separate groups to keep him in the house. And to start the day, Allie and Liv are on board to keep him, but Paris, Will, and Maddie are not. And Paris is saying so to the cameras. She doesn't want to keep Johnny, but she does want to target Dela soon. She is starting to feel like it's dangerous to have them in the house. So her plan is, if it's a triple eviction, she wants to target Dela. If it's a regular eviction, she wants to target Allie or Liv. Because they have to make extra super special plans for the triple, Matt. That's just how the game works.
Yeah, the freaking triple. Yeah, apparently over the 12 hours or so that we had feeds down for that half of the day on Monday, Something must have happened. I don't know exactly what. I don't know what made Paris start to change the way she was thinking, because it seemed like on Sunday and the rest of the weekend she was just so gung-ho on working with Dela going down the line. They were going to bring in Will and keep that like a strong four tight, but something must have happened on Monday that changed her mind a little bit, because she starts this day off more worried about Dela than I've ever heard her be before. And that's the only reason that her wheels are going to be spinning for the rest of the day, and actually having her consider possibly keeping Johnny. But because any other day, she was so, like I said, trying to keep Dela around.
Yes, we know that after Paris had been talking with Kayla, mostly Kayla, but Dela too, that they were not really believing a lot of what she was saying, and they were not fully trusting her. And so I think that what happened was, at some point during the party, there was something said to Allie about Paris, and it kind of like the vibe got out that Paris was starting to feel like there was maybe a little bit of a rift there. And also, of course, just in general, the fact that that Dela have been winning a lot of competitions lately, it's a scary prospect. So that's getting into Paris's head. She also goes over she makes like a summary of her game, and like almost every single point is wrong. She's like, I took Veronica out of the house. No, Allie did that. I made sure that Ryan stayed over Marin. No, Johnny did that. I made sure that Erica was an option when Kayla was nominating somebody. Nope, Allie did that. And then I got Johnny up on the block this week, and no, Allie also did that. So she really poor view of like what she has done in the game. It's weird because she actually has done some things, but she doesn't seem to recognize the things that she has done. She seems to think that she's done things she hasn't.
Yeah, meanwhile, the people who have done like so much, like Johnny or Allie, Erica, when she was in the house, like they haven't been telling us anything like this. They're not like all like boastful and like stroking their egos about how great that they've been doing. But Maddie and Paris, the two people who have don't seem to have a great idea on what they've actually done in the game, are the ones that we keep hearing from about how great their games are that they're going to present to the jury in the end.
Yeah, seriously, the one most impressive thing that she did was get Ryan on the block last week, but she doesn't want to take
she doesn't,
that.
So hopefully she can course correct and figure out what she's actually talking about if she does get to that final two.
Yeah, and that's the thing. If she tries to take credit for these things in the final two, sometimes people are just willing to buy that. Oh yeah, sure, you did those things, that's fine. But I feel like there are a decent amount of people in the house that would be like, wait a minute, no, well, I did that. What are you talking about? And it might not work too well for her.
And I already feel like she's in a position that Johnny might have been in, and like that I was thinking about like last week or so, because it seemed like Johnny is friends with everybody in the house, and I was saying about how on the way he's gonna have to betray a lot of people that thought that they were his friends, and that might possibly turn them against him and make them a little bitter towards him. Paris could be going down the same route because she's probably the most safe right now, just in terms of like being in the middle. She has both sides kind of on her side. Not everybody. She doesn't have Allie and Olivia totally or anything like that, but there will be some people like Dela next week will probably feel the most betrayed by Paris if things turn around and they get targeted and Paris does nothing to save them. So besides the fact that she like can't fully articulate what happened in her game, like my point is that she's going to need to be able to do that if she burns bridges with people along the way.
Yeah. So Paris in a tricky spot here. She was doing pretty well, but this day especially is going to be a difficult one for her. There is another important conversation that happens between Ryan and Maddie, where Ryan is kind of checking in with Maddie, and Maddie is asking Ryan, like, are you going to put me on the block if you stay? And Ryan's like, no, I wouldn't put you on the block. Unless it's a triple, because we have to plan for all the triples. Yeah, I mean, if it's a triple, then I'd probably put you on the block, but only as a pawn because I think you'd stay. And I don't know why anybody on the block would ever say, I'm going to put you on the block to a vote, regardless of whether it's for the triple and they're a pawn. What are you doing, Ryan?
Yeah, if Johnny does stay this week, we'll look back on how Johnny did a lot of impressive work to turn everybody into wanting to keep him. But also need to look back on this conversation that Ryan had with Maddie, because Maddie didn't seem like she was convinced on keeping Johnny, but like when she found out from somebody who she doesn't even like in the first place, doesn't have a great game relationship with at all. They just had that big blow up last week. And Ryan comes to her and says, listen, like, you're probably my backup nominee. Like you're going to end up on the block. If I need to put somebody on the block, I will want to keep you, but you are going to end up on the block. That's the last thing Maddie wants to hear. And it's the exact moment that gets her turning into, okay, maybe I really can't keep this guy around. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I mean, this definitely set red flags off in Maddie's mind. She had already been a little bit on the fence. She was never too solid to vote Ryan to stay, because I mean, it's not like this conversation like really changed things for Maddie. She already knew this was the case. She already wasn't very happy with Ryan, but Ryan just like telling it to her face really got the gears turning in terms of like, all right, this is just annoying now. Like, do I really have to keep this guy in the game? And Johnny is going to jump on that opportunity. But first, Johnny has to reconvince Will to keep him in the game, and he's going to have a lengthy conversation with Will, essentially brainwashing him back on board to the keep Johnny train. He says, look, again, I'm sorry about the vote. You and Erica, you were both my number twos. I never thought I was going to have to choose this early in the game. But I'm sorry that I made the choice that I did. But look, now Erica's gone. You are all I have. You are my number one. Every single alliance I've made in this game has included you, because I've always wanted you in them. I've always had that level of trust with you. Dela, they're working with everyone. You can't trust them. I swear to you, I am not going to go back to Ali and Liv. I'm with you guys. Just like making a very hard pitch on Will, trying to get Will to be on board with keeping him.
All along, the easiest person that Johnny would have been able to flip is Will. Will and Johnny have had such a good relationship for the past few weeks, probably since the season started, but like especially in the past few weeks, since the Jesse vote, really. So it was obviously the vote last week where he voted to evict Will out, that Will was like, I'm going to get that guy. Like we saw it on the episode. He's like, when you least expect it, I'm coming for you. But it really isn't in Will's best interest to lose Johnny, because I do think that now that Erica's gone, Johnny is Will is Johnny's number one, and Johnny will protect Will going forward. So I felt like Will was the easiest one that he would have been able to flip. It's just that Will has been Derek has been getting in Will's ear so much for the past few days, and Dela have done a pretty decent job in pulling him in with having beers with him and all this stuff that they've been trying to make him feel comfortable, and it was working for a while. But Johnny really did a good job showing him, like, you know, like all he had to do was just keep reeling him back in and trying, and it was eventually going to stick, I think, and it did.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of deprogramming of Dela and Paris that Johnny is doing, and also a lot of reprogramming because you know, Will is in a decent spot, and sticking his neck out to save Johnny, not necessarily the best move, I think. You know, Johnny, I do think Johnny would want to bring Will along with him toward the end, but Johnny's just such a dangerous player. It's tough to really advocate any move to keep Johnny from honestly anyone in this house. But Will is one of the Will and Maddie are two of the people that I think benefit the most from keeping Johnny in the game. But even then, it's kind of a tricky proposition there. But Johnny's making it work. He says, and Will, the thing that turned him off was how eager Ali and Liv were to keep Johnny before. So Will is questioning Johnny about, look, are they really working with Dela? Are they really? Are you really not going to go running to them? And he says, no. This is like, everything is above board here. I promise you, we are playing Ali and Liv. I am with you. They like Dela, they're trying to make Ali and Liv feel comfortable, but Ali and Liv are feeling a little bit skeptical. That's like, this is the opening that we need to take. This is the way that we break them up. And Derek is okay with you, but he's trying to manipulate you with like having beers with you and reeling you in. But even though Derek is okay with you, that doesn't mean Kayla is. I think if Kayla was HOH, you would be on the block right now. And that got into Will's head. Allie ends up joining them, and she kind of reinforces, like, yeah, Dayla's trying to make us feel comfortable, but we're kind of worried, we're kind of skeptical. And then after she leaves again, Will is like, you're gonna be my number one. Like you're like, we're good here. And Johnny was like, absolutely, you are my number one, I'm your number one, we should do this moving forward. And boom, that's it. Will again on board to keep Johnny.
Right, that's one down. I guess Allie and Olivia at this point are still on board, but we do need Maddie and Paris to complete this puzzle. We need both, not both of them. We need at least one of them to be on Johnny's side if he wants to stay in the house. The problem is that we need probably both of them, because Maddie and Will both feel bad, or maybe not feel bad, but they don't want to go against Paris. They don't want to be on the wrong side of the vote from one of their closest allies. So it's I think that Will, more so than Maddie, would vote the opposite way of Paris if it came down to it. But the tricky stuff comes up next, where we have to try to get the two girls on board.
Yes. So Will goes to Paris and says, hey, I'm kind of feeling like maybe we should keep Johnny. And Paris is like, no. Things have not changed for me. We should not be keeping Johnny. I am not on board with this. And Will makes the pitch to Paris, who is not feeling it. Then Maddie ends up having a conversation with Paris, and she's like, yeah, so I talked to Ryan. I'm just like, should we really keep Ryan? I mean, he said he would put me on the block. Like, do we really have to keep Ryan? I'm feeling maybe should we consider keeping Johnny? And Paris is like, oh my God. And it's coming from both sides now. Like, no. We're all good with Ryan. Don't worry about Ryan. This is fine. So Paris is starting to like, no, I need to start doing some work. But Johnny seizes this opportunity. He has a conversation with Maddie. And at this point, she's still not keeping Johnny. She's never even seriously considered that. She doesn't even know that it's an option. But Johnny makes his pitch to Maddie, and he says, look, the same pitch that he offered to Paris and Will before, I will be working with you guys. I will be targeting Dayla. Maddie is worried about his relationship with Allie and Liv. He says, don't worry about it. I promise you, I am not with them. I am with you guys. I always have been. I protected you in the past. I've been with Will. We are good. You should be on board with me. And boom. 2 down. He convinces Maddie. She's kind of on board at this point. She's not 100% on board like Will is, but she's kind of on board. Her main issue right now is you need to work on Paris, because I don't think Paris is on board, and I'm not sure that I can do this without Paris. So this is essentially 2 down, 1 to go for Johnny. He needs this final puzzle piece in place if he wants to lock this in.
Yeah, see, the conversations that they were having were so, I guess, interesting to watch, because I feel like if this whole day had happened today, Wednesday, instead of Tuesday, then a lot of these conversations probably would have been a little bit more direct, because I do feel like Maddie was leaning towards, okay, I really can't keep Ryan in the house, but she was tiptoeing around it so much because both her and Will recognize that Paris really wasn't on board with it. And you can bounce ideas off of each other back and forth so much and pretend oh no, I'm just considering it. At one point she even said to Paris, she's like, yeah, I'm still 95% evicting Johnny, when reality, she was probably more 50-50 at best. But she's trying to ease into the conversation with Paris, so Paris doesn't flip out and say and just blow up about it. But yeah, like you said, Maddie gets on board with the plan. It's just so tricky because we can't underrate the work that I guess Dayla put in the past week or two, where they really made Maddie feel good. Maddie hasn't had very many strong allies besides Will and Paris. Johnny and her were a good team for a while, but they kind of broke apart. She kept saying that, she says every day, she's like, yeah, Johnny was disassociating himself with me for the longest time. So having Dayla come to her and say oh yeah, we want to go far with you, we want to bring you to the end. She's like, oh, more people want to work with me. This isn't a common place that I'm familiar with, being in the Big Brother house. So she was getting comfortable having other people that want to work with her, but it's just everybody's coming to recognize right now that Dela is a threat that they need to get out. Ryan is somebody who just told Maddie he's coming after her just to put her on the block or whatever. But meanwhile, Johnny's sitting here like, I won't put any of you up. I'm coming after Allie and Olivia or Dela. You should keep me. It doesn't make any sense for you to get rid of me. And it's working.
Yes. Jeremy wants to know, what has Dela been doing all this time?
Nothing.
They even said to themselves, like later in the day, they just hung out in the HOH room all day. They let Johnny run free. They felt a little too comfortable. And again, like, you give Johnny any inch and he will take a mile. You do not want to make, and it's the same thing with Ryan making the mistake that he did. Any mistake that any other player makes, Johnny is going to jump on it and exploit it as much as possible, which is what he did yesterday. He put himself to work. He was running back and forth all day long, and really he made a difference.
Dela put themselves in such a bad spot this week, just by putting Ryan on the block in the first place. And I understand that Derek said he wanted to go with the approach of, I don't like both of these guys being in the house. As long as one of them goes, I'm happy. But at the end of the day, like, his main target was Johnny. And if he wanted to get Johnny out, I really don't think that the nomination of Ryan made any sense to him, because he's leaving the perfect person on the block for everybody else in the house to want to take out if they decide to keep Johnny. And so, like, that was their first mistake. And then their second mistake was spending an entire day to themselves in the HOH room while the entire house was flipping around them, because like you said, they let Johnny run free and they don't even know that it happened yet. And that's a lot of what's going on today, is that people are debating whether or not they should tell Dela. Dela would know already if they had walked outside the HOH room like at least once yesterday, but they didn't.
Yes. So Johnny goes to Paris and he tries to get this final piece of the puzzle. He makes the same pitch, tailoring it to Paris, of course. And Paris not really as receptive here. She's concerned about the fact that he's only coming to her now. She had tried to solidify things with him before, and it seems like, oh, now you need me. Now that you're in trouble, you're coming to me. And so Johnny is not really breaking through to Paris with this pitch, and ultimately comes away from this conversation defeated momentarily. Paris has not been convinced. She goes to Will and Maddie and says, no, I still think we should keep Ryan. She tries to convince them to come back over. But at this point, Maddie and Will are sort of gaining momentum on the keep Johnny train, and they don't seem to be budging either. And it's they're kind of at a standstill here between Paris, Maddie, and Will.
And I think if this is the conversation that I was thinking of that you were just talking about, is this when, like, Johnny goes to Paris and, like, I think they were in the White Room and Paris is just like, well, you never told me any information, like, you don't share things with me. It was just like awkward between Johnny and Paris, because I guess, like, Johnny did think that he might have had Paris a lot closer than he actually did. And when he sees that the rest of the house is, like, moving towards keeping him, but the one person that everybody keeps telling him, you don't have Paris, he's like, I don't understand. Like, I thought we were good. Like, why am I hearing so much hesitation that you don't want to keep me? It doesn't really make much sense. And she's just like, well, you have to understand that I do think that you're good in competitions, and I don't know if I can beat you. And you haven't been sharing a whole lot of information with me the whole game. And I don't know, like, it just doesn't, I don't know if this makes a lot of sense for me. So yeah, Paris is really giving him a hard time with this whole thing.
Yes. I mean, despite that, like I said, Will and Maddie seem a little bit more fortified, and it looks like even though he doesn't have Paris, he does seem to have Maddie and Will. The only problem, of course, is that will they vote to keep him, even though Paris is against it? If they do, he theoretically has 4 votes. He might be able to stay. This is when it's starting to look a little bit better for Johnny. However, meanwhile, Allie and Liv on the other side, and this is when we were doing the roundtable. The seesaw is real. He's spending so much time working on Paris, Maddie, and Will that he's neglecting Allie and Liv, and they're starting to waver on their idea of keeping Johnny. They fear oh my God, he's been talking to Paris, Maddie, and Will so much. I wonder if he's going to run to them if he stays. That would be bad for us. It's, again, this situation where it's like it's so difficult to get both sides to agree because both sides have to think that he's actually with them when he's not with both of them, obviously. So they are starting to worry about that. They're starting to worry about, like, is this going to piss off Dela, especially if Johnny ends up running to them? And he's also so dangerous in this game. Do we really think it's worth it to keep him? They're really starting to question things here, Matt.
I like the seesaw, but it when I was thinking about like what analogy does this make me think of? You know, like the Survivor Challenge that they used to do, like they haven't done it in a while, where they would like have to run to the ocean with a bucket, and then they'd have to run back and climb up a ladder and pour it into another bucket, and then that bucket had like a hole in the bottom, and the water would just pour out, and then they would have to go back to the ocean, get more water, go up the ladder, pour it in the bucket, and water kept coming out. Like that's what Johnny has been doing for the past 24 hours, and what he's going to have to continue to do. He's just got to keep pouring the water and trying to get it to stay, but there's a hole at the bottom, and no matter what he does, like he can't plug up the hole. He's just got to keep trying to get there as fast as possible so that like everybody doesn't freak out and decide that this isn't a good idea.
Yeah, hot tub Johnny with his water. He's got this load of BS that he's pouring into the bucket, and there's a hole of truth at the bottom, and he needs to just keep on pouring that BS in there.
If he could plug that hole, everything would be great. But there's nothing he can do about it. This is the challenge that he's facing with.
Yeah, you can't fight the truth unless you just keep on pouring on the BS.
That's what they always say.
Yeah, so they end up talking to Johnny. They question him about this. They're wondering if he's willing to go after Maddie, Paris, and Will. And this lights a light bulb in Johnny's head. He goes, okay, I have a better plan of approach here for Paris. I think I can talk Paris into keeping me. And so he goes back to Maddie and Paris and them and starts trying to approach Paris with a new pitch. First of all, he's solidifying things with Maddie. Maddie's telling him about how Kayla told her that Johnny suggested her as a pawn when he was potentially going to use the veto on Will. Remember, back to this is when Johnny had that conversation. Kayla was trying to test him, throwing out names, Allie, Liv, Maddie, and Johnny was really not saying any names. He was like, whoever you want, that's fine. And then Kayla went around and lied about what Johnny said. She said that he threw Allie under the bus to Allie. She said that he threw Maddie under the bus to Maddie. And so Maddie is finally bringing this to Johnny's attention. And Johnny's like, whoa, no. I mean, I said I don't care. You can put up whoever you want. I did not name any specific names. I definitely didn't name you. Kayla's clearly just making stuff up to stir the pot. So he manages to clear that up with Maddie, which I think further solidifies her to be on board with him, because I think that was a huge deal to her in terms of why people have been asking a lot. Why isn't Maddie more grateful to Johnny for having saved her so much? I think this is one of the big reasons why she felt like Johnny had turned on her. So why be grateful to somebody that is no longer protecting you? So he locks Maddie up with that conversation.
And the good thing for him, that I don't know if it's because he's been doing the correct, like he's been doing the right work or what, but everybody is like afraid to talk to anybody on the other side because they think if they do, it'll ruin the plan of keeping Johnny. And they all think individually that keeping Johnny is better for like their side's game. Like Maddie and Will think it's better for them. Olivia and Allie think it's better for them. So like nobody's really running to the other side and exchanging information that Johnny is telling them, which is perfect for Johnny, because if they did, this plan blows up in his face. Obviously, nobody's running to Dela and saying anything to them because this whole plan is anti-Dela, and because like we said, Dela has been locked up in their room all day. So all of these conversations are going like they couldn't be going possibly any better for Johnny. And he's just got like another 24 hours coming up today where he really needs to hope that people don't exchange any of this information, because he said last night, I think like right before bed, he was saying like if anybody wants to, they could completely ruin this tomorrow because they have all of the information that I've given them today, and it could be completely blown up if they wanted to.
Yes. So he finally makes he makes he has a new approach for Paris. He says, "Look, Allie told me that Kayla told her something about you, Paris. She told me that you had been campaigning really hard for Ryan. Like Kayla was telling Allie secrets about you, essentially implying Allie is actually a lot closer to Paris or to Allie and Liv than she is to you. This is hitting just the right spot with Paris. This is exactly what she's been fearing. She is very angry at Kayla for talking about her. And this is what's going to tip her over the line. Especially because he says, also, I was just talking to Allie and Liv, and they seem hesitant to go after Dayla. They're talking about me going after you guys potentially, which makes me very worried about their relationship with Dayla. And Paris is like, oh my God, this is not only am I scared now because of what Kayla might have said about me, but I'm angry at Kayla for revealing secrets about me. And now I have to be worried about Allie and Liv and their relationship to Dayla. He finally gets Paris to go, okay, I'm starting to feel like maybe we should do this. Maybe we should keep you, Johnny. And with Will and Maddie there as well to be like, yes, this is what we want. He finally has all three on board. They confirm that this is their plan. Johnny leaves. They confirm to each other, this is the plan. They need to make sure that Allie and Liv are going to, in fact, vote to keep Johnny. And they also need to figure out how they're going to tell Dayla. But for now, they are keeping Johnny. Johnny has succeeded. He has all 5 votes right now, but who knows how long that will last, Matt.
It works with Paris just because the same thing with everybody else. It's just like everybody's turning Dayla into the villains, and everybody's and Allie and Olivia she already doesn't trust in the first place. Meanwhile, Johnny is just going to everybody and petting them and saying, "Don't worry, I have you next week going forward. I'm coming after everybody that's not you. I'm going after Allie and Olivia. I'm going after Dayla. Like Paris, you're fine. Like you're thinking this too much. Ryan doesn't bring anything to the table here, and well." To bring Ryan back into this conversation for a second, a lot of this is, obviously had to do with keeping Johnny because Johnny's more beneficial to their games, but they've also been doing a lot of convincing of themselves that Ryan is just as strong of a player as Johnny. They're saying that Ryan's won all these competitions, that Ryan was saved by Canada. If he makes it off the block for the 4th week in a row, no one's going to be able to beat him at the end. So it's like, I think Maddie in particular has really convinced herself that their resumes are like completely equal right now, and saving Johnny, it doesn't really make that much of a difference because Ryan is just as much of a threat in the end as Johnny would be. So they've done so much like work in their own heads to just convince themselves that this is a good idea.
Yes. So he has the trio on board. Now he just needs to make sure that Allie and Liv don't fall off of the board because, like I said, they were starting to waver. Luckily for him, Will talks to Allie and Liv, and they express a little bit of their hesitation. But Will seems so enthusiastic now about keeping Johnny. He's talking about all the benefits. After Will leaves this conversation, they agree to keep Johnny. Allie is very excited about this. She's no longer feeling as nearly as many of the doubts as she was before, and I think a large part of that is because she is saying, it worked. Yeah, I did it. I convinced Will. I did it with my manipulations, and it's again like people taking credit for things that they didn't do, but it makes them feel good and it makes them feel excited. And Allie, I think if anything, just wants to go along with this just so that she feels like she did something impressive, which is exactly how Johnny wanted to make her feel. And exactly what he instructed Will to do, to make it seem like Allie and Liv had convinced them and manipulated them into doing this. So for now, like I said, he's got these votes. He managed to do it successfully, and Will did good work on his behalf, and Allie and Liv are in fact on board to keep Johnny.
Yeah, Johnny gets so much of the credit here because he did such a good job with Allie, with Will, with Maddie, telling them that they're the ones that need to convince the other side, even though he knows that he already has both sides convinced, like from his conversations with them. But he's doing such a good job, like telling Allie, like, you need to be the one to get Paris. You need to be the one to convince Will. And then when he actually does the work to convince them, they go back to Allie and they're just trying to reaffirm that they're all going to do the same vote. And then both sides feel like, yes, we did it, Johnny. Like we're saving you. This is all our great work that we just put in.
Yeah, it's fun stuff here. It's if we finally had an exciting day, and boy was it exciting. But of course, it's not done yet.
No.
He manages to get the 5 votes briefly, but that hole in the bucket is still there. Paris starts to doubt herself to the cameras. She's like, "Wait a minute, is this the right thing?" Because this is definitely not the right thing for Paris. She has Ryan in her back pocket, keeping Johnny. There is no benefit to keeping Johnny right now for her. So she starts to question it. She goes back to Will. She's like, is this the right move? I feel like maybe this isn't the right move. I'm not sure. So, she's trying to maybe talk Will out of this again. And Paris starts to undo some of the work that she'd been doing. And Will is like, man, I mean, because she's like, if we are good with Dela, if we're just being paranoid, then we're screwing ourselves up because we're in a good spot and we might not be in a good spot if we do this. So Will is like, okay, fine. I'll talk to Dela. I'll try to get a sense of where we are with them. If I feel good about them, then I will switch. We will keep Ryan. Don't worry about it. So already this was good for like a half hour before it started to fall apart again.
I don't know why, because Will was saying things like this, Maddie was saying things like this, they kept saying they spent the entire day convincing themselves that this is a good idea, and then within like a second they'd be like, well, maybe we won't do this if we get scared, because everybody is just so afraid of Dela. At the end of the day, they're just all so afraid that when Dela finds out about this, they're going to become the #1 targets, because they all think that Dela is in good with them, and they're going to feel so betrayed by them. So they just keep getting afraid when they think about the consequences of this. They feel good about it when they go back to talk to the other side, like when Allie and Olivia join forces with Paris, Will, and Maddie, and they're like, oh, we're all voting the same, it's fine. But then when they separate again, and they get afraid again. So it's like you said, like the whole just like the water just keeps falling out, and it's I don't know, I don't think that it's going to make a difference what Dela thinks about this. I don't think that even if they find out today, it's going to make a difference, because I do think that all of this work happened yesterday while Dela had nothing to do with it, that when Dela finds out about it, even if it happens today, they're going to be coming off so defensive, and they're going to be coming off saying, no, Johnny needs to go. Johnny is a big threat. And then even if it does get back to Johnny, that like if say this blew up today, which would be great feeds, Johnny would be able to go to everybody and say, look, he hasn't had to pull out this card yet, but if he does have to pull out the card of like going in front of the whole house and saying, look at these two, we need to get them out because they've been winning back to back to back. I'm not coming after any of you guys. I'm coming after them. And if he needs to pull that card out today, he probably has no problem doing it. But yeah, everybody's still afraid of them. Everybody's still afraid that Dela is going to come out of the room eventually and berate them all for even considering it.
Yes. So Will ends up going to talk to Dela. He asks them about, like, do you have a deal with Allie and Liv? They're like, nah. He's like, do you have a deal with Ryan? And they're like, nah. They're essentially denying everything he's asking. They also express a little bit of doubt in Paris, talking about like, she might be the third of every, like, they are behind the times here. They're talking about day-old gossip.
They are. They're a full day behind.
Yeah. And so it's not going to be a successful conversation with Will. Will will go back to Maddie after this conversation, and he's going to be like, no, I'm keeping Johnny. I'm bored with this. Maddie agrees. She says, I want to keep Johnny too. Johnny in one day has flipped Maddie around. We were talking about it a couple days ago, how she said she owes Paris in this game so much. She's now saying, I owe Johnny my life a lot more than I owe Paris. So Maddie seems to be on board with, even if Paris is not on board with this, she seems to be on board with keeping Johnny, which means that Johnny might have a solid 4 votes, no matter what Paris does, to keep him in this game. That's where things kind of ended in terms of the flip-floppy back and forth at the end of the day. But of course, there is a long day ahead of us today where this is not set in stone. A lot can change. And even, there's still a lot of stuff happening after this point. But right now, I think the solid 4 votes, again, right now, are Will, Matt, Maddie, Allie, and Liv, with Paris probably joining in if she realizes that she can't change things. But she is probably going to try to change things, and she might be successful. And as you mentioned, Matt, they still need to inform Dela at some point, or potentially not, but probably they would. And Dela will have something to say. They will try to convince them out of this as well. So this is not by any means definitely what's going to happen tomorrow night, but it is exciting.
This, just talking about Dela still, this seems like to be Derek's like theme of the season, that every time the game turns around, like he has no idea what's happening until it like actually happened and it flies right past his face. We were talking about during the Jesse eviction week that he had no idea. Like he thought that he had the votes the entire time until like the day of or the day before, where somebody had informed him that Jesse's actually going home, and I guess you have no idea what's going on. This is the same exact situation. It's just like the whole house has been flipping and he had no idea because he's just sleeping right through it. And to touch on Ryan, who I feel like we just keep glossing over, not on purpose. It's just that he's really not involved in anything going on. No, he doesn't. And every time he tries to do something, he shoots himself in the foot like so bad. He started the day off shooting himself in the foot when he told Maddie that, yeah, I would consider putting you up on the block, which, not a good idea. And then later in the day, he has a conversation with Will and Paris, and he's talking about, I need to get Maddie out of here. I don't trust her. And Maddie is the third in their alliance. So it's like, it's just, I don't even know if I would say it's his fault that he like doesn't realize that they're such a close trio, because like people in the house suspect that the three of them are together. But no one knows exactly how tight they are except for Johnny. They've told Johnny like everything. They're like, yeah, the three of us are tight and we're going to the end together. So even if we keep you, the three of us are tight and you're on the outside. But Ryan has no idea, and he, telling Will and Paris about this was just such a bad idea.
Well, I mean, you have to remember that Paris put all the blame on Ryan's nomination last week on Maddie when it was really her. So Paris is the one that turned Ryan against Maddie, and so true. Ryan feels comfortable telling Paris and Maddie, because they had a big blow up. He thinks that like him and Maddie are in this big conflict, even though Maddie never really did anything against him. And Johnny also helped fan the flames of those last week when he didn't even realize he would be in danger this week and that would be beneficial to him. I mean, Ryan also just behind the times, lots of stuff going. If you're not involved, there's a lot of conversations happening and you're not involved, then you might be in trouble.
Yeah, he's had these big blow-ups with Maddie last week, and then he had the blow-up with Allie the week before with the I don't trust this B thing, and he tried to talk to Allie a little bit yesterday, but like if you're watching these conversations, you can see that they're very like no one buys a word that's kind of coming out of his mouth. If he stays in the house, it has nothing to do with them wanting to keep him around as an asset to them. It's because they want to get Johnny out. But this is Canada's boy we're dealing with, so we're gonna have to let him ride his game however he wants to do it.
Yes. We have a question from Gabe. Says, could Paris be in trouble in a tough spot even if Johnny goes? Yeah, I think so, actually. Obviously, Johnny staying is not great for her, but I think that even if Johnny goes, the amount of social capital that she'll have to spend to make that happen is very detrimental to her already kind of sinking game. Dela they're not trusting her. I mean, she will have to do a lot of work to dig out of the hole that she's gotten into, where Dela trusts Allie and Liv more than they trust her, and now even Will and Maddie are kind of like, why is she being so selfish with Ryan? So she's kind of all of a sudden found herself in a tough spot. So Paris not in the best spot in the world here.
To counter a little bit, I think it does, like, it obviously is a bad move to keep Johnny, just because Johnny's such a big threat against her game. Johnny has a lot of the pull with the same players that she has the pull with, so it's like if Johnny goes, she has full control over Will, full control over Maddie, and that's why it obviously makes so much more sense for her to want Johnny out. But in another sense, just like a little bit on the other side, Ryan leaving is one less person that Paris would definitely go home before if she was on the block against. They got rid of Marin because they were like, all right, anybody goes home next to Marin. It seemed like, I think if anybody was on the block except for Johnny this week, like if Johnny came down and Will got put up, I don't know, would Will have gone home? I just feel like Ryan ended up in this pawn spot, and I feel like Paris has a better shot of staying if Ryan's out of the house and she ends up on the block next to anybody else.
Yeah, but at the same time, like she has control over Ryan. Like she is the only person close to Ryan. So, but here's the thing: I do think that at this point, it honestly might like her move at this point might be lean into the Johnny thing, like lean into it and then play Dela. Say, go to Dela and be like, seriously, I don't want Johnny to stay, but Will and Maddie are. I can't talk. I've been trying. I can't talk them out of doing this. Allie and Liv, they convinced Will and Maddie. Blame it all on Allie and Liv. Get Dela to not trust Allie and Liv. So have Dela on your side, but then also lean into it and go to Johnny and be like, okay, Johnny, I'm sorry that I doubted this. I just wanted to make sure that this is the case, because Johnny, even though you've put some doubt into him because you've been hesitant, you are the person that if you get on board, this is happening. Yeah. So you can make Johnny feel comfortable and good and solid and relieved. And that feeling he will not forget, even though you are the cause of that feeling because you're the only one that hasn't been on board yet. If you are the one that goes to him and you're like, all right, Johnny, here's the plan. You need to promise me this. Like, I want to do this. Let's work together. Let's make a final two, whatever it is. Then Johnny will feel most good about you because you're the person finalizing this for him. So I think that if Paris leans into this, because it seems like it might be inevitable anyway, then she can get out of it relatively unscathed, even though obviously it wasn't ideal. It's essentially like losing Jesse, right? Like,
yeah, exactly.
And she fought too long to try and prevent her loss there. But eventually she was able to build herself back up. I think she needs to maybe consider starting to do that, or she should start considering to start that up soon.
I think my ideal scenario, if Johnny does stay, I think next week would be a lot of fun. If Johnny wins HOH, puts up Dela, that's the obvious nominees. Ryan's out of the house at this point. Say Dela, one of them pulled themselves off. Who is he putting up out of everybody else in the house? Is he going to put Paris up, and like she's the one person out of everybody else who has shown the most dissension against him, and then she feels totally screwed? Like, why did I let Johnny go? Why did I let Johnny stay last week?
Yeah, and that's one of her concerns, and that's why, again, like obviously Dela is Johnny's target, but they can only be his target for like 1 week. Once one of them is gone, they are no longer a huge target, and obviously he needs to put somebody else up on the block next to them if he's in power. And so it's really resting on, as you said, that these two sides are not talking to each other because they need to truly, fully believe that Johnny is with them and not with the other side that's also voting to keep him. And obviously he needs to be promising both sides this, and they both understand that he needs to be promising both sides this, but they both also have to believe that he's most truthful to them and not truthful to the other side. It's a very tricky spot, but he's managing to walk that tightrope. So this is crazy stuff here.
And we agree, right, that the episode is going to completely show all of this, exactly how it's been going down, right?
Oh my God, there's this. They have the potential to show an amazing piece of footage, and we're going to get a bunch of Ryan talking about how he is on his way out the door to set up for when he comes back in the tomb. Like, that's
God. Like Johnny's going to get like 5 minutes of credit for this. Like Allie's going to get the credit. The episodes love Allie.
Yeah, they're gonna show Allie in the diary room and talking after Willie's being like, "I did this."
Yep.
God. But you know,
this I don't even know. No, this will all be tomorrow because today's the veto competition, and whether or not Derek uses the veto, which was the obvious no. So they're gonna have to fit any and all of this into the brief time they have before tomorrow night's eviction.
Yeah. Unfortunate, because
I'm sure it'll be great. We have nothing to worry about.
Yeah, this is some of the best. This is one of the best days on the feeds all season long, and I very much doubt that they're going to portray it in even close to the way that it should be portrayed. So to finish off the day, Will confirms again with Allie and Liv. They are on board to keep Johnny. They're excited about it. This is the kind of thing that really confirms a flip, that people are talking about it and they're like, yes, like this makes us excited. This gets our blood rushing. So they are fully on board. They want to like do this together. Meanwhile, Johnny is being like, well, guys, don't be too close to Allie and Liv because he can't have them talking too much.
Right.
He's like, they're still potentially coming after you. They might be playing you a little bit, but don't worry, they are still voting to keep me, but they also are a little bit against you and still with Dela a little bit. So he's he's trying to maintain that balance. And honestly, like he could say one wrong thing and totally mess this thing up. Will could say one wrong thing. Allie could say one wrong thing. Paris could succeed in convincing people not to do this. Dela could come in and say just the right thing to make this not happen. There are a lot of ways that this could falter today and tomorrow before the vote. There's a lot of time left for that to happen. So be on the lookout for that. But this is again, like I haven't seen somebody come back from the dead to this extent in quite a while. It reminds me of obviously Vanessa in season 17 when she came out of the being backdoored, and also it's kind of reminding me a little bit of the funeral. Obviously, Woo! Not as cool, but it reminds me of like when Dan succeeded in the funeral, and it was like, oh my god, now this just needs to hold for a couple days. Can he do it? Can he prevent things from changing? And Dan managed to do it. So
yeah. Gabe said in the chat, Ika and Jackie. It reminds me of that too. It's a person who probably should be staying in Jackie or Ryan, and then Ika is the bigger threat. Johnny's the bigger threat, but then again, let me say, Ika and Johnny staying in the house are completely different reasons. Ika did not stay for putting in anywhere near the amount of work that Johnny did. Ika just had some good relationships. But yeah, I agree with you. It's very impressive. It's really fun to watch, and if you're around and you want to watch the feeds today, it should be just as maybe not just as fun, but we'll see if Dela emerges from their HOH room and if anything crazy happens.
Yes. All right. So that's what we've got for you today. Thanks for tuning into this longer update here. Good stuff. I feel like this is, there are like Hall of Fame updates, right? With like the great stuff. And I feel like this is one of them. We had one earlier in the season as well, but good stuff here on the Big Brother Canada 6 live feeds. Very excited to see if Johnny can pull this off. And also because not only will him pulling this off make for a great episode, it's already made for great feeds, but I think it makes for a great dynamic in the house moving forward. Ryan, who is a totally dead weight in the house right now, he leaves, Johnny stays. Almost all of the big characters are still in the house to duke it out. So good stuff. Good stuff, guys.
Don't get your hopes up, anybody, but it might be the week that we finally get rid of Ryan. And if it does, I think that we'll finally get the exciting house that we've been waiting for all season long without any pawns left, unless you count Maddie. But
yeah, they tried to beat us down with the twist, but this cast is strong enough that they're managing to survive a little bit, and they might be able to come back. So there we go. That's what we've got for you today. Thank you for joining us. Make sure you tune in tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern, where I will update you again on everything that's happening on the feeds. Hopefully to say that even though there's some crazy stuff going down, maybe there's a big blow up with Dela, that the plan is still on, that Johnny might still be staying. And then, of course, tomorrow night, we will be talking about the eviction episode. I still haven't talked to Erica, but I'd love to get her on if that's
I don't possible. Want you to get her on. It's gonna make me sad. I don't want to hear from her.
It's a great way to mourn the loss.
I don't know. I don't know if she's ready. I don't know if I'm ready. I don't think I can do it yet. Maybe give it like another week or two. See if Johnny stays.
Well, especially if Johnny goes, I think we need to hear from Erica.
Yeah, it's like when we had Emily in Toronto when Dylan went home, and the fun part about that was she had absolutely no idea that he was leaving because she hadn't been paying attention.
Yeah,
I think Erica's watching though.
All right, so that's what we've got for you. Of course, again, make sure you check out June on the Taran Show. Check out our Ninja versus Ninja coverage, I'll be talking to the evicted, or maybe not. Actually, I don't know how it'll work with the jury now, but good stuff headed your way, guys. You can follow us on Twitter. I'm at Armstrong Taran. Matt is at Matt Lagori, and subscribe. Do all the fun stuff, and I'll see you tomorrow. Hopefully with good news, but I'll see you tomorrow.